Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
To the Larry Yatesasis show, and I guess you can look at me and tell this is me. Hey, thanks everybody. You know, I got some really wonderful emails last week. The show was really hot and popping, and I really appreciate you guys for responding to last week. You know, it's just been so much going on in the world today. Yes. I know, and I know a lot of you think I got all the answers. I have a few, but not all. You know what I mean? I got a couple of answers. No, I'm just kidding. I've just been surrounded with some wonderful, beautiful people in my life, and thank you guys for standing there with us, and we're gonna get right into this thing. Last week we had such a wonderful time, and we have so much to get into. So much going on in the world, and all of this good stuff. Someone just texted me. And so, because we're on radio, I can read my text. I don't have to pretend I'm not looking at my text messages. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. So, well, we had another young black man shot down by the police department in Venice, California. Mm-hmm. Surprised there that we getting all these killings, and we. You know, I don't even know what to say half the time. I'm so thrown back with so much of this stuff. You know, and so what do? Hopefully the prayers go out to him, and we're treating the homeless like they don't mean anything. That these are human beings, and right. And I got an interesting call yesterday about, is this racism, or is there still that question there? And I don't know. I want people to take down my email. It's larryyatesasis at AOL.com. LARRYYATESASIS at AOL.com. And send me your opinions about that, because I really want to get a little bit more into that. But the young lady is here today, and I want to introduce her again. Guess who just walked in the house? Well, hello. Let's give her an applause here. Carolyn, thank you so much. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. How you doing?
I'm excellent.
See, I was just getting in. I knew you was gonna be here, so I'm just stumbling all over myself, which is something I don't normally do, and because I know you wanted to be at the beginning of this when I move into the conversation about what Etoy is here with us again today, and I tell you, people like you pushing back on me, so. And so I like that. I was telling Carolyn when we talked later, I said, you know what? I really like that. She should come and co-host with me sometimes. She got this fire. I like that fire. I like that fire. You want. Look, when we say a nation can rise no higher than it elevates its woman, I'm not kidding with that. We elevated. You're elevated, girl. And so Carolyn, you want to introduce what the topic is for today?
Well, we're going to talk about transformation of law enforcement, as well as the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. We've had conversations, and Mike and Etoy were here last week talking about a program called Manifest Justice, which ran from May 1st through the 10th. And it's still going on. There's some wonderful things happening there. And I attended the program last night, which I'll talk about. But she's also here to share some information about the John Legend program, Let's Free America, which we just touched on last week, but thought it would be, it's such a profound program, we wanted to reintroduce it to our listeners and viewers and to let them get more of the depth of the influence it's going to have in the world.
Well, you know, I want to say to John Legend that I love his music and a beautiful brother, but I had no idea that he was smart enough to put someone like Etoy working with him. John, you just get my back. All hats off to you, because the music is one thing, but what you're doing with this program, you know, anything we can do. But tell us, go ahead, Etoy, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I, really wish that Mike De La Rocha could have been here with us today. He's in the middle of the Manifest Justice series when they're having daily activities that are designed to really shed a light on the criminal justice reform system, police reform, and just some really serious issues that we need to be addressing within our community. But I actually came into the process because of Mike. Mike is actually the lead organizer on this effort, and I'm just happy to be able to do a small part with it. But essentially, the Free America campaign is a multi-year campaign to shine a light on what some would say the addiction that our society has, specifically American society has, to mass incarceration. As we've shared, 1 in 4 Americans has a criminal record. The number of our prison population has grown 700% in the last 40 years, and we're looking at nearly 7 million people that are under correctional control in our country. And as we know, the majority of them are people of color, and particularly African-American men and women.
Yes.
So, as Michelle Alexander, who wrote The New Jim Crow, has said, we are in a crisis, and I think people need to treat it as such. We're at epidemic levels when it comes to our incarceration system, and our law enforcement system feeds right into that. So when you see endless killings of people of color, particularly African-American men and women, daily, every 28 hours actually, in our communities, in our street, it feeds the cycle of incarceration. We've become a country that, instead of offering true rehabilitation, true healing, true transformation, and restorative justice, where we're just incarcerating people, we're housing people, and they're not actually getting the true services that many of them need.
And then they're monetized. I mean, they're privatized, and now it's becoming an industry, a big business. Just the new Jim Crow. I get that, but it actually become new slavery.
And the piece I want to throw in here is that not only is it a problem of police and young people, but our educational system is a feeder base for what is going on in the judicial system. And young people who drop out of school, the stat is 80% of those who drop out of school wind up in the prison system.
And but
prison
let me ask you something, because Carolyn, you've been really an advocate for education.
Yes.
And I've seen you help young people, but talk about the injustice treatment of young African Americans at a younger age that many times causes them to leave school or be kicked out of school.
Right. I mean, there have been a lot of instances here in California where the school-to-prison pipeline is a major factor.
Wait a minute, say that again, school-to-prison?
School-to-prison pipeline, it's called, where, you have kids as young as 3rd and 4th grade that are essentially being put on a life track that all but ensures they're going to end up incarcerated. I remember hearing a fact once about a prison official saying he knows how many prisons to build based on 3rd and 4th grade reading scores in certain communities.
It's
now,
been documented.
America, did you hear that?
It's been documented.
That has been documented.
The research, in fact, Dr. Ross of the California Endowment said that the statistics are in that show how this is happening to our young people at such an early age. It's the way they're treated, the food that they have, the stress in their environment, all of those things that lead to their failure in the school system and directly as a pipeline into the jail system.
And so our youth doesn't get the support of other communities as far as when they do. I mean, young people screw up. That's just absolutely, and that's when you want them to screw up when they're young. But the punishment often with us is what I'm hearing you say, it doesn't fit the crime.
Right.
And therefore our kids are thrown under the bus.
Not only does the punishment not fit the crime, but the other stat that's a sad piece to bring in is voting. So I don't want to overcomplicate it, but the fact that when you looked at the situation in Ferguson, in Baltimore, all of these situations are where blacks, in Baltimore not as much so, but the percentage of black voters was low. And as a result, the local politicians don't feel a need to be responsive to the issues, and the people who are voted in are not people that reflect those are black and brown. So it's a complex situation, but one that can be solved piece by piece. And the whole point of what John Legend is doing in his program and the Manifest Justice is, how can we manifest something now? Yes. What can you do? What can each one of us do? Even just something little can make a difference. So whether you're reading to a child, whether you're involved in a program that elevates the skills of a child, that they think what they think they can do, they can do. If you help child through art, one of the things of last night, I'm just blown away. There were over 100 artists participating in the event last night, and just walls full of creative art that was done just for this, just amazing. People can still go to the program on La Brea, but artists, filmmakers, just amazing display of talent was there. And what John Legend is doing is pulling together the talent and the music and everything else.
You showed me some pictures on that, but and so this and I want to. Carolyn, know I'm a nut for the artist for art anyway, but and bringing all that together, I really want to tell me more about the organization. What John Legend, what is his vision with this?
So based on what my understanding of it is, it's still, a lot of it is still being formed and coming together. But Mike De La Rocha and Dream Hampton are working very closely with his campaign. He has a foundation called the Show Me campaign. It's an initiative that handles a lot of his investments in social reform, such as education reform has been a big issue for him for years, and now criminal justice reform. But the idea is they want to spend the next several years really pulling together influential voices that will provide a platform so that, one, people understand that there is a problem, that, two, people understand the legislative reforms that are being advanced at the ground level. So they're working very closely at the state level. Can you talk about
some of those advances that is occurring there?
Yeah, definitely. We're engaging with the campaign as part of the Freedom Sunday Coalition, which is a national coalition of faith denominations that engage in civic engagement. And so part of what that partnership is going to look like, for example, in Texas, where John launched the campaign, he was partnering with the Texas Criminal Justice Coalition, which has been working for years to advance key reforms throughout the state legislature in Texas. Very small example, right before John came, they had been advocating to restore visitation rights for prisoners, which had been taken away. Had been having a very hard time of it, from what I understand, and had been told no, this wasn't going to happen. They did the launch. John did a press conference as well as meetings with legislators, visited the prison, and just that little bit of attention and focus literally the day after he left, they got the visitation rights restored.
Because he's using his platform to shine a light on the
good,
problem,
right?
And that is what I commend him so much for.
Right.
Because one of the things when I dealing with a lot of the hip hop gangbangers, many of them coming out of the prison system with the same mentality that they went in with, and sometimes even worse, because they become more hardened when they were in there.
It became its own educational system.
That's a great point.
Yes,
that's a great point. And so, and to address that mentality coming out of prison, are we doing anything before their release into the system?
Well, it's good you're asking. Generally speaking, no. There are a few programs that try to work with prisoners, but on a large scale, I would have to say no, that we're not providing sufficient preparation for the reentry process. And on the reverse side, many reentry programs, many churches have invested years and years and years into reentry programs, but they tend to be under-resourced. And they tend to not have the support that they need to adequately support people beyond providing, housing for a little bit of time, links to job employment, but those solid life skills that people need, those social, emotional skills, that deep care that folks need to help them kind of rethink their lives and develop a plan for their lives and look towards the long term. Often programs aren't providing that. And that's one of the things that, I was sharing with Reverend Wilkins that we're hoping to create and bring. We've launched a nonprofit here in Los Angeles that will work nationally to do exactly that, to work with young people who are within a year of release from juvenile detention, to actually help them set goals for their lives, pair them with mentors, lead them into relationships with employers, transportation, housing, but more importantly, help them rethink their mindset, help them realize that they have a purpose. And if this particular moment that led them to prison or to detention may have been a slight detour in that purpose, that they have the opportunity to get back on that road or to reinvest in themselves. And so really just giving people a sense of inspiration that they're able to dream big.
Last week, because I think this is so fascinating, because last week we had so much going on that for the audience, I had to cover so many other topics, but I want to stay focused on this today. So help me stay. I know you'll help me stay focused. I don't have to ask you to do that. But revisit the changing of the laws from a felony to a misdemeanor.
Yes. So Prop 47 is a really good example of what we call smart justice reform. It's basically a law that was passed. It was a ballot initiative that was passed by voters in November, this current November.
Those who voted know what she's talking about.
Yes.
those who did not vote need to remember how important it is to vote.
It is.
Look at me. But please go ahead.
So Prop 47 essentially decriminalized a set of about 6 offenses, stuff like shoplifting, petty theft, writing bad checks under $950, nonviolent offenses that typically have been harshly classified as felonies that now have been declassified to misdemeanors. The anticipation is that it saves millions of dollars that can now be reinvested to the K-12 educational system. And there's a process going forth right now in the state legislature to get that fully funded and make sure those, funds are being properly channeled. And then it also affected over 1 million people. So, for example, here in LA County, I believe there are 300,000 people that actually can benefit from getting their records changed. So on this past Saturday, we did a records change fair during Manifest Justice. We had the public defender's office come out. They had lawyers present. They walked people through the process of what they needed to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
and
goodness.
how many people showed up? I know there's supposed to be about 30 attorneys.
Yeah, I think we were somewhere around there. We definitely need more than that. We need hundreds and thousands of people, because if you look at it, the law basically has kind of a timer on it where we only have 30 months to actually get all of those affected individuals to get their records changed. So one of the things we're talking about as next steps is we need churches, community organizations, we need partners, one, getting trained so that they can help people go through the process that might be within their communities. But we need to get the word out that this even
exists. That's my point. That's what I was that's what my next question was, is getting to the point where young people don't even know about this.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the people, and even the parents that is supporting them while they're in these incarcerated and waiting for them to come out, don't even know this. So, reaching out to the local newspapers and local radio stations, they should get involved.
Yes, I hate to interrupt, but I was so impressed last night because all of the stations were there. I didn't see the coverage this morning, but I know that the stations were there. CNN was there, NBC. They had full coverage of the program last night, and I hope that what the coverage doesn't just show is Sabrina Fulton, who is Trayvon Martin's mother, but I hope it showed the broader sense. And I know they took footage of everything, so to bring a presence, and I think it becomes an opportunity for perhaps one of the Saturday morning talk shows or other areas that you have a time that you can discuss this, because people showed up. It was packed. They were oversold. Well, it wasn't sold. It was free. So, but there were young people around the block. So I must say very positively that the work that's been done is being made aware of.
And and the thing here, tell our audience, everybody that is listening. Tell a friend, tell a family member, tell someone that these laws are out there now, that they can, you tell them.
Right. So I think there are a couple of things to think about. If you're in California, a couple of things I suggest. If you know someone who has a felony that may qualify for getting their felony reclassified, you should have them go to the website of myprop47.org. That's myprop47.org. And there they will walk them through the steps that are needed to get their felonies reclassified. That's a first small step. Secondly, if you're part of an organization that serves a reentry population, strongly recommend that you also go to that website and inquire about getting trained so that you can provide those services to folks within your congregation or within your organization directly. And we ask that you aggressively spend time on hosting fairs where people know this service is available at your church or your organization. Advertise broadly, share amongst your email lists and your networks, and get folks in the door.
And also, I say to you, with I don't know that you know this, but I'm just throwing it out there. With FCC ruling, and one of the things that has been missing with radio is has been a commit. Carolyn and I work with radios across the nation. We know that radio, terrestrial radio, is community driven, and under the FCC rule, don't tell them I said this. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But you can actually get free announcement for the community. For something like this,
the PSAs.
Yes, for something like this, you can go to the community-driven radio, like
we won't mention in
the community.
Yes,
in the community, and there's laws in place that they must honor something like that.
That's good.
And then you want to talk to them, but and then it shouldn't cost you to advertise on the station to help someone in the community. So just Google that, look into the rules of that.
I can assist with the process.
And then, do that and call the stations and set up an appointment, and they can do public announcements.
Yes.
This is a public announcement. This is not you making money from it, and that way you don't have to call on Mr. Legend's name. He don't have to get involved, but he can still get you get the gist of it. So look into that, and then Carolyn is really good at that kind of stuff. We've done a lot of work on that. So and I'm just so impressed at your knowledge of what's going on. How did you get to this point? What brought you here?
I think I've shared with you all a couple of shows ago, I've been a community organizer and advocate for 18 years now. So this has, been my work.
Not old enough to do some 18.
Since college.
See, there she go, pulling
Since
college.
college.
Hey, you're just a kid over there.
I have. I've spent my whole life engaged in organizing labor unions, leading community organizing efforts, organizing young people, and then working in politics. So this is the world that I care about. It's the world I'm passionate about, and honestly, it affects my life. I can't even describe. I have 6 siblings on my mother's side, and 3 of the 6 of us have been incarcerated or are currently incarcerated, not to count uncles and cousins. And it's a very personal issue for me. And I think it's something that's personal probably for most African Americans in this country, unfortunately.
It's not 6 degrees of separation.
It's 4, right?
Probably 3.
Less than that.
No,
it's very real for us.
No, it just turn around and slap the person next to you.
Yes,
it is.
It's very real.
It's no joke, and it's life or death for our community, and the impact it has on our community. Not just from, I don't know if you guys saw, there was a New York Times article that came out maybe a week or 2 ago that the headline led 1.5 million missing Black men. Did you see that?
I did see that,
and it talked about over 1.5 million Black men that are missing from the community because either they're incarcerated, they're dead, they're chronically underemployed, but literally the impact that has on a community, whether it be from a relational standpoint, between partners, whether it be from a standpoint of parenting children, the loss of, that impact on children, whether it be from the standpoint of just, how it affects an entire community to essentially have large portions of your community completely gone. And so it's something that I do think, as we said earlier, we have to treat it almost like a crisis.
Not light.
I don't use that lightly.
You caught yourself.
I don't use it lightly, but we are at
crisis.
epidemic levels. Yes, we really are.
Well, we've been, I tell people all the time, when Asians come over, they have support system, and many of them come from backgrounds of being entrepreneurs in their own nations and country and supported to come here. Hispanics come here, but we are the only group that has been fighting the most powerful government in the history of mankind. There are things that is in place to crush us, and we're still standing tall. We're still fighting back, but we're feeling the pain.
There's an impact. There's definitely an impact.
There's an impact. I mean, you tied someone's leg up for 400 years, and then untie them and say, okay, you can win, get in the same race with someone that is 400 years ahead of you,
right?
Which is the white community. So there are things that are just systematically designed to put us in these places. And I remember when crack cocaine first hit. I mean, the street. I'm from Mississippi, I can do that. The 3 strikes, you're out kind of thing. Yeah. And I never will forget, there was a young man that was cracked out in Venice, snatched a slice of pizza. And that was his last strike, and they gave him life.
Right.
You remember that? It was all over the news and stuff. They gave him life.
A lot of cases like that. Yes.
And those are cases like that is designed.
Yes.
For us to fail in these cases. And then you look at some of the school testing, the school programs, even to some of the law enforcement. I remember even looking at some of the jobs in government, from law enforcement to fire department. Those questions was designed to put a stumbling block in front of African Americans, because you're going into the inner city where people never even had a swimming pool or waterfall in their backyard, but then on the test they got to know how to handle a swimming pool and waterfall before they even get into the system. So little small stumbling blocks like that has always been put in front of us, but they manifest themselves in something: loss of job, loss of income, loss of the ability to raise your family. Right. Then
they have impact.
Yeah, and then you dump all the drugs on top of you.
So all of that is part of the reflection of mass incarceration. And what can you do? The Free America campaign, I'll just read to you what's on the website. The first thing is listen and learn with me. This is in John Legend's words. We need voices from all walks of life. Artists, activists, policymakers, business leaders, and others to get involved. Through collective action, we can transform our justice system. Visit a detention facility and make your voice heard. You can make your voice heard also online with #FreeAmerica. Number 2, support smart justice policies. Mass incarceration is not inevitable. I'll reread that. Mass incarceration is not inevitable. There were intentional policies enacted in the last 40 years that have caused this problem to explode, and it will take our advocacy to bring incarceration rates back in line with the rest of the world. So the last 40 years, and I think something that came up last night that was something I was feeling in my heart, was someone who said that they did not grow up with the civil rights movement, but they were the next generation. And they did not take the baton of those who fought in the civil rights movement. And they apologized for that, because that generation and the next one wound up being a part of what this 40 years was that allowed that change and policy to slip through the cracks. So regardless of what age you are, I encourage you, I implore you really to just wake up. Wake up and find something that you can personally do to assist the situation. There are young people in jail. There are people who were young when they went to jail who are no longer young, but they deserve the opportunity to live a full life in what we call free America. So the #FreeAmerica is what you're looking for, but free America is what we want. We live in a country where I learned it's a land of the free. However, our communities of Black and Brown have not been living in that land. And one of the interesting artistic presentations was called The Talk. And it was done by a gentleman from New York who I wound up sitting next to, and his name is Michael. And he did a graphic presentation that showed a father talking to, a Black father and mother talking to their son, watching a news program about a challenge that had happened. And it depicted the father having to have the talk with the young black man. Now, yes, the talk, Larry, why don't you tell our listeners what the talk is? The talk that Black fathers have to have, Black mothers have to have with their Black sons.
I'd be one glad to, because we have to have that conversation, that, to put it in a nutshell, that our young men and women cannot act out as free as adolescents as other groups can, because the laws are harder on you, and as a young African American male, you are more likely to be incarcerated, stopped, beat, and potentially killed. Questioned and potentially killed. So you have to prepare your young man on how to deal with these things. You have to prepare him how to respond to being stopped by a policeman, whether he's walking or in a car. You have to give him the riot act of pull your ego back. Don't show any anger. Don't show any frustration. Be quiet. Shut up. Don't say anything. Do as the officer say. Don't question authority, and the whole bit. One of the ways that I can explain this, and with the corporate punishment.
Yes, corporal
punishment. And one of the ways I was explaining to some of my white friends that with my son, when we have an argument in the house and he gets upset, well, the white kid can slam the door and run out the house and say, I hate you. And he can run down the street and go play in the park or go surfing and still saying, I hate you. He gets stopped by the cop. He jerks around. He frowns. The cops, well, you go ahead this time. Well, when my son, the reason I have to slap him and say, you cannot leave this house angry. You cannot leave this house angry, because if you step outside this door angry, then when the cops stop you, you're going to act like a mad black man, and that'll get you killed. These are some of the talks that we have to have with our young black men. And that is just so heart-wrenching, but it is a fact. And then now we with the technology, and they're seeing it now, the world is seeing it. But I want to ask another question that keeps bubbling up in me. Lots of our people, black men and women and brown, end up incarcerated because they have mental challenges. And
the strong mental health population.
Yes.
now, is there anything that is addressing mental illness in the prison systems?
Not necessarily concretely. That is an issue that's being flagged, is that a significant proportion, and I don't know the exact number right now, of our incarcerated population are folks who are in there for drug offenses or for mental health issues. And that's one of the things that has contributed to the explosion in the incarceration rates in the country, because we're incarcerating people. Generally, they're committing crimes because they have drug addiction, because they have mental health issues that are not being addressed. And I saw a wonderful quote the other day that says we have to stop using our prison system as a substitute for a mental health institution.
That's powerful now, but because of time goes by so fast. Now, talk a little bit about women being incarcerated. We've been talking about the men.
Before you go there, let me
Okay.
also address, because I have been doing some coalitions that the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health is doing with the churches. So there is some activity, and I know that they're also working with the local police agencies. But something that is, I know I can say specifically for LA County, they're conscious of the problem. They're trying to see what they can do. They're working with the churches and other communities to make sure that we're trained in what to look for in the symptoms and the behavior and the challenges, so that because those who are mentally ill are in churches as well as in the streets. And so sometimes even churches respond inappropriately to how someone may react. There may be what some people consider inappropriate laughter. There may be a movement or jumping up. There may be people that may get up and do something that is unexpected, because in churches you have protocol, you have ritual, you have other things, and you expect people to follow what they are. And if they don't, you may think something's really wrong and ask them to leave, rather than understanding that they may have a mental challenge, and you don't want to displace people.
You want to create a system
you want to create a system that is welcoming and supportive. So I will say that there is some action going on. I can't say how it's affected, though, in the prison system, but that's something we can look at.
I'm glad you brought that, because a couple of both white men that have been shot and killed by the police officers was mentally ill.
Absolutely.
Black men, Asians, and Hispanic men. There's been quite a few number of these individuals, these spirits, that was mentally ill.
Yes.
And it's just absolutely heartbreaking to see that.
In fact, the woman that was on Highway 10 that was beaten and shown on national TV being beaten by a sheriff was mentally ill. And so that leads into the question you have about women being incarcerated at higher rates than ever.
Absolutely. And disproportionately, I don't know the exact number, but women are incarcerated for drug-related offenses more often than not. And, that's part of the story that's definitely not getting talked about as well. And
then babies, it's just almost break your heart. I think babies are being born in prisons.
Yes, exactly. And going to prison at younger ages as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, from the thinking of children under 12, folks are engaging in the system way too early.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I think it fits into the school to prison pipeline that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Schools across the country increasingly, especially since Columbine and where was it, Newtown, and as we've had more incidents of gun violence, but even before that, specifically in inner city schools, over probably the last 30 years, we've seen a militarization of schools where you've got the metal detectors. You move from having, no security to security guards to actual police officers on campus.
And a little police station
and a police station on the campus, to
yes.
students being restrained and treated more like suspects as averse to students. So the discipline policies within schools have essentially kind of substituted what happens on the street and brought that into the school. So if you are a student and let's say you get into a fight, right? Normally you get sent to the principal's office. If there's an actual officer there, you're getting arrested.
Yes,
right?
you're normally sent to the principal's office.
Right, you're
the
sent
parent
to jail.
is called and you are sent home,
right,
where there is punishment to fit the crime based on your parents.
Right.
But now it is bypassing that system.
It's bypassing that system, and it's starting in middle school. It's starting in elementary school. So you have children who are being detained and either sent to juvenile, the juvenile justice system, or interacting with law enforcement at second and third grade levels, which is ridiculous, right? And people say it's in the name of safety, but I don't know.
Here again, that takes us back to the organization here, and where you. The organization is working with getting some of the laws, have gotten some of the laws reversed, the potentially, and helping the parents and some of the individuals themselves know that this is possible out here.
Right. And I think the bigger piece here, it's so funny you guys mentioned that 40 years and carrying the torch. We just released, as a follow-up to our Selma conversation, a sermon guide that was just released on Tuesday that talks about us carrying the torch from our ancestors during the civil rights movement. And I think our torch is this. It's the criminal justice system. It's law enforcement. It's where Dr. King left off when he and Malcolm X and others died. These were the issues they were talking about. Economic justice, law enforcement reform. Incarceration wasn't the issue it is now, but these were the issues they were tackling. So we're taking that banner up. And I think what we have to do, first of all, is recognize that there's a mindset. Unfortunately, there's stigma that has been attached to Black people, unfortunately, in this country. Much of it is perpetuated by the images we see in the media.
Yes.
And many people are consuming it blindly, even Black people.
Yes.
But especially folks who don't have that interaction. So the idea of the Black thug is, kind of burned in people's mind. It's burned in the mind of officers who've been given license to basically treat more specifically Black men, but I think even Black women as if they're not human many times. Not all, of course, not all the time, but there's a desensitization that has occurred and that we have to be really real and honest about. And so I think what our community can do is, one, really learn about the political structure in your city and your state. What we saw in Ferguson is, when you think about a jury, when you think about a district attorney, when you think about the people who made that case happen, right? Or Baltimore, we have right now a good example of a district attorney who's doing their job.
Women.
Yes.
A mayor.
Learn the system.
A district attorney.
A mayor, exactly. So learn the system.
And Attorney General.
Right. So learn the system in your state. Understand who impacts criminal justice reform. Learn the statistics. Learn what legislative processes are happening. There are plenty of organizations nationally and locally that you can partner with, and then advocate. Call, write, visit, email, tweet your legislators and let them know where you stand and how important this is.
And along with that, and I have to throw this out here, and don't let us forget our media. Call the networks. Send letters, emails,
write op-eds,
knock on the door,
BSAs,
and stop this negative image of of Hollywood, because Hollywood is a big part of the manufacturing of the images that we have out there. We have not been in control of that. You know what I mean?
And the music industry.
All of that. I'm talking about all of that.
All the sectors of our society are feeding on the same stereotypes.
Yeah, we have to address the media as well, because a lot of before the teabaggers came out there, we was already being beat up in out here, but it was justified under the Sarah Palins. When Sarah Palin and those teabaggers came on, they made it popular because of this black president. And then all of a sudden we want to take back our country, and black folks are taking the country away from us. So you got all these white men that's running around here thinking that we are taking their country from them. And so, and then, you know, one of the biggest problems that I believe is that we also have to reach out to the white community. We have to reach out to them and let them.
There has to be reconciliation and healing is very important.
We're all in this together.
Right. Because let me just say this real quick. The reason I say that because I learned it coming from the South and the whole bit, my country, Mississippi. When you get a white father that is 50s, 60s, 70 years old, and he feel that the country is over, he's being lost his country, then he tells his son this, that you have nothing to look forward to, and then his son now has a son that is in his 30s now. That son that is 30 is looking at a black president, which he's been told that his country has been taken away from him, that the blacks are taking his job, the Hispanics are taking his job. So you can see why they would be afraid.
Right.
And then you can see how the anger will bubble up and they will act out. So to be able to sit down and bridge some of this misinformation would be very important for the health of the nation.
Misinformation and the way the story is told.
Yes.
Because everything is in the story. Piece. So that story could be retold by saying that this is a land of freedom, this is a land of justice, this is a land of full equal opportunity. And we have a president today that looks different than the ones who've been there before, because this young man thought about it, he put his intention and set his life in a way that allowed him to become the president of the United States. But he put a lot of time in, he became an attorney, he worked in the streets, he did the work he needed to do, and he was elected because he made it a part of what he wanted and brought people in to support him. Because actually he was not the front runner 8 years ago. He was considered someone who would not win. And as a result of what he did, what he embraced other people in doing, he won. It shows that you can win if you put your mind to it, you become passionate about what you're doing, and you set an intention and build a team. That's another story.
That's another
team building. Man, no matter who they can.
I like that. I like
that. I say it from another place, and I also want to add, from last night, I was just so inspired by everything that happened. Shout out to Rosario Dawson for what she did. She's an amazing moderator, but she's also an advocate for Latino voting and for legislation behind this. She's supportive of the Manifest Justice work. I just was so pleased with what we got to hear from Sabrina Fulton, and as the mother of Trayvon Martin, what she came to understand in the justice system and how young black men are targeted. She encouraged all the mothers to wake up, to help, to support, and to change what's going on. But the last thing I want to share is a story somebody said, and they said it's about Chelsea Clinton, who was reading about her father's book, who talked about his mother. And he talked about living in Arkansas a long time ago when we were talking about the civil rights time. And in the book, he talked about there being two fountains, a fountain for whites and a fountain for blacks. And Chelsea looked at that and said, "Dad, I didn't know that. I didn't realize you grew up with that." And he said, "Yes." And she asked the question, "What did you do about it?" So I leave you with that same question. You've heard us talk today about the criminal justice system. You've heard us talk about inequalities in education. You've heard us talk about more than their fair share of young black and brown youth, both black and brown, and girls and boys being incarcerated in horrible rates. What can you do?
I hate to cut you off. We're at the top of that hour. God, it's gone by so fast.
It always goes so
fast.
fast.
You got to give us a last,
Yes.
some words of wisdom here.
So 2 quick things. Strongly suggest if you're in California, visit the website of Californians for Safety and Justice. They're the lead organization on this issue, as well as PICO California, and also myprop47.org. Nationally, go to www.letsfreeamerica.org and sign up so you can get involved and activate your local community around these key issues.
And, I just want to thank you so much for coming on again. And, Carolyn, thank you for dropping in on us and supporting this. I needed this. And we're at that, the hour's gone by so fast. Let the spirit of justice guide you wherever it takes you, because justice will always take you in the right direction.
That's right.
Remember, a nation can rise no higher than it elevates its woman. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
California. I know, it's always
Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread